but I did laugh at your little intro where you're like, "This caught our eye." I was like, "This caught one person's eye here."
Why are you so like? Can we get to the root of your problem with this story? Because I'm gonna just peel back the curtain on this. I had this as our temp title, that this guy was going to be the next Batman. Because I'm like, oh, everyone's still talking about it. Ends with us, and this guy's being interviewed about it, and everyone was worried about Batman. And Lacey's like, is this really our like main story?
I love how that's the voice you give for me.
Oh, sorry. Is this really our main story? This is Batman, and the reason I'm opening this show is because the guy from It Ends With Us, not that guy, the other guy, wants to be Batman. Do you know which guy I'm talking about? Not that guy, the other guy.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Nerdy and Nice, everybody. Batman voice is hard. I'm John. Thanks for joining us today. We have a very fun show in store for you because there are a lot of cool stories, including the death of James Bond again. But with me, as always, is Lacey Gilleran. A very chilly Lacey Gilleran. A chilly Gilly. How are you?
I am. I'm very cold right now. I'm good. Your Batman voice reminded me of a funny story from college that my friend, anytime he got drunk, we knew when he reached that point because he'd start talking in the Batman voice. Like, once he got enough drinks, he would then be like, "Where are the drugs?" Like, all the time, like just talking in Batman voice. I know that sounds bad, like him saying, "Where are the drugs?" but he didn't mean it that way. Like, he was just being a nerdy guy that was just talking in the Batman voice.
Yeah, it's a line from Batman Begins.
Yes.
Where are the drugs going?
Right. But I'm saying, like, the way it came across was like, as soon as he got super drunk, he was asking where the drugs are. No. He started reciting Batman.
Would he do the Batman voice while trying to, like, talk to girls he was interested in or anything like that? Or was it just, was he fully that voice the rest of the night? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
I just remember, like, beer pong. It would be like he'd be talking in that voice for the rest of the evening.
Did he put a mask on?
No.
Wow. Interesting. All right. Are you still friends with this person?
Not really, no.
Imagine, like, just the stars align.
I mean all the best because he's from my childhood. So, like, all the best. And I wonder if anybody that knows me from real life listens to this at all, and then they're like, "Oh yes, I know exactly who that person is."
But I'm saying, like, what if the stars aligned and he's like, I wonder what Lacey's up to these days. He's like at the bar, like hammered, and he's like, let me look her up. And then he pops on Nerdy and Nice, and you're like, this piece of shit I used to be friends with.
I never said that. I said this guy I used to be friends with. Look, people come into your life and then they leave and then you go to separate ways, and that's fine and it happens. He went to, where did he go to college? He went to like Quinnipiac or something. Like, he didn't go far, but it's just, just go in different directions.
Die, Lacey's friend, or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Basically.
All right. Sorry, Gary. Anyway.
His name is not Gary, for people wondering.
Lacey has a friend, Gary. He's like, I don't remember doing
I actually don't know any Garys. Do I know any Gary? I don't think I know
Gary Fisher passed away. We didn't talk about that on TRB.
Oh, we didn't. That's really sad.
Little Gary. Yeah.
But he's now with Carrie.
He's with Carrie. Gary's with Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. to the Frenchie. All right, Lacey, we do have a lot to get into. Obviously, we want to thank everybody for listening and watching and having some fun with us on a Monday. Good way to kick off your week is getting nerdy with us here on Nerdy and Nice. If you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed to the show on your preferred platform, Apple, Spotify, Pocket Cast, wherever. Also, of course, youtube.com/@TRB podcasts. So make sure you're subscribed and you rate us and all that good stuff. We appreciate that. And check out the Patreon, because tomorrow night We are doing our first movie watch along. And Lacey, what are we doing and when are we doing it and where can they watch it with us?
We are watching one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm not just saying that because recent years it's become popular again. I'm saying because I literally used to watch it all the time when I was little. Jim Henson's Labyrinth from 1987, starring Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie. We're watching it on Patreon, so you can head over to patreon.com/TRB podcasts. There will be a post there to watch via live stream with John and I. And we will, I believe it's on Disney Plus. So you'll just stream it with us.
Yeah.
We'll say hit play. Oh, and John's never seen it. That's a big detail. So I've seen it so many times, and John has not seen it once. So this is going to go one of two ways. John's either going to thoroughly enjoy it and was like, wow, that was so whimsical and fun. Or he's going to be like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I don't know why you made me watch this. But the fun thing is the next movie we do a watch along to is John's choice, within reason.
Yeah, true. You have to think about that. But I am excited to watch Labyrinth. I will try to watch it from the lens of 7-year-old me or whatever, and it'll be fun. But before we get into the main stories, this one caught our eye. Brandon Sklenar, who is going to be in the new movie called Drop.
Yeah, it's not Airdrop because that's copyrighted. It's just called Drop, but it's basically Airdrop.
That's coming out this spring. Also, he is probably most recently known for being the part of the love triangle in It Ends With Us. And he is now saying he is a lifelong Batman fan. Comics, everything. And he wants to throw his hat in the ring to be the DCU Batman. He said he would crush the role. He wants it. It's not even one of those, oh, it'd be nice if I was asked. He's like, no, I will crush that. I'll crush that role. Lacey, are you a fan of Mr. Sklenar? And what do you think about him as Batman? Because as we all know, you've been crusading for Glenn Powell to be Batman. So it might be a biased response, but I want to get your thoughts.
I wouldn't say I've been crusading. Glenn Powell said he wanted to do it and has been talking just like this guy has about how he wanted to do it. And how he's been a fan all his life of Batman. So it's literally the same situation, just a different actor. But I would love to see Glenn Powell on anything he wants to do. That being said, this guy, I've never seen him act, so I have no idea or reference to if he's any good. I did laugh off air because I said, isn't this the guy in that Airdrop movie? And you were like, well, he's in It Ends With Us. And I was like, that's not much better. So
you didn't see It Ends With Us?
I did not. I have no want to see that movie whatsoever. Not just because of the drama behind the scenes of whatever. That author is a terrible person, so I don't want to support anything that author does. So no, I did not see it. If you want to, it's on Netflix, but I have not watched it. But that's not to say this guy isn't good. I'm just saying I don't have a reference point of, besides the fact that he wants to do it. He's a somewhat attractive guy. Sure, you could be Batman if you want. I think it's going to probably go to either probably someone well known, I think. I don't think they're going to just cast someone random because you can't go from Robert Pattinson to no one. I think they have to pick someone with some type of audience because they did kind of go unknown on Superman. And yeah, I just don't think that that's going to happen. I wish this guy the best of luck. If it's his dream role, I hope he gets it. I hope all his dreams come true. I don't know anything about him. But I did laugh at your little intro where you were like, this caught our eye. I was like, this caught one person's eye here.
Why are you so like, can we get to the root of your problem with this story? Because I'm going to just peel back the curtain on this. I had this as our temp title, that this guy was going to be the next Batman. Because I'm like, oh, everyone's still talking about It Ends With Us, and this guy's being interviewed about it, and everyone was worried about Batman. And Lacey's like, is this really our like main story?
I love how that's the voice you give for me.
Sorry. Is this really our main story?
I strongly believe that this isn't the biggest story of the week, but I appreciate that you put it in here because I know you really care about it. Batman's really big to you.
This is
DCU
very
is big.
important. Yes.
I
This is a
understand
very
that, but I'm
important
just saying,
choice.
I just chuckled a little bit in my head, maybe outwardly. I don't remember that you were like, this caught our eye. And I'm like, I don't know about our eye, but your
Well,
eye,
we are a
sure.
collective.
But there are numerous stories that I send throughout the week for like rom-coms and other things that never make the notes.
That's not true. That's not true at all. We did Buffy. We did a whole like half hour on Buffy.
I love Buffy. She's training now for it. She posted a video
on Christmas holiday garbage
I know,
movies.
and I totally dropped the ball this year. Sorry about
So
that, guys.
what are you talking
Maybe
about?
next year when I don't have a baby. I'm
You're
just poking fun, John.
You're placating to the man haters out there.
Okay, how am I hating on you at all? I literally said I hope this guy gets the role if he really wants it, and I said that you really love Batman. I'm not sure how that's hating.
I think he would be a decent choice. I think Batman's easier to cast somebody who's well known because Bruce Wayne's supposed to be a well known person. He's a billionaire, as opposed to Superman. I think it makes more sense to cast someone relatively unknown as Superman, which is essentially what they've really done with Superman. Like Chris Reeve, unknown. Brandon Routh was unknown. Henry Cavill was just getting started. No one really knew who he was. And they continue that with David Cornsweet. So I think that's what you do with Superman. With Batman, every once in a while, not even every once in a while, they've been very popular actors. Michael Keaton, George Clooney, Val Kilmer, Christian Bale, and Ben Affleck. And obviously others with TV and what have you. So I think...
I still can't believe we got Batfleck. I still can't believe that.
We did. And you know what? He wasn't that bad. It's just the whole thing was a mess.
Which James Gunn met with Zack Snyder this week.
That was cool to see. Yeah, because you get a reminder of like reality versus social media and message boards. But because fans, for some reason, like to pit eras against other fans because it makes them feel like I'm losing relevancy if this new thing happens. Go to a therapist. Talk to somebody.
All right.
All right.
Who's the hater now?
I'm trying to help the world, man. All right. Lacey, a lot of stories. So let's get into what's happening.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
First up is a movie that I think is going to be right up your alley, John, which is Martin Scorsese's doing a new flick. And it's supposedly, this is coming from Deadline, by the way, Aloha to a Hawaii set, Goodfellas meets The Departed. So they're doing DiCaprio, Dwayne Johnson, and Emily Blunt in a top crime drama package. John, does this sound like it was a movie made for you? Taking out The Rock, because I feel like you don't like The Rock.
I like The Rock, but it's funny. I think I like The Rock when he's in the world of wrestling.
I think you've said that. Like when he is The Rock, you like The Rock.
Yeah,
but when he's not, it's
The Rock when he's in wrestling, where he got his start and stuff. And I like some of his movies, and I'm not like hating on that, but I'm not as interested in his other ventures the way I am when he was in wrestling. And he still comes back every once in a while. Same thing with like Logan Paul. Like I'm not the biggest fan of this guy, but I'm like, I watch that guy wrestle. I'm like, that guy is unbelievable and he belongs there and he shouldn't be nowhere else but there. Wrestling it sometimes just creates amazing things for people that they can't replicate elsewhere. And I'm not saying
Dave
The Rock.
Bautista, tons of people came out of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there are some people where it's clear, at least for me, I like them best there. And that's The Rock for me. Now, he's being rumored to be a lead in this, so that makes me nervous. Because I don't think he's that good of an actor, and he doesn't seem to be a big fan of changing how he looks for movies. Like we've joked, and there's been memes. It's like, oh, he's bald again, and he's wearing some beige tone. That's like
with a chain.
That's The Rock. Yeah. In most of his movies. So I wonder if, because we've heard Scorsese You guys vote. We'll put a poll up.
We do.
But,
Yeah, I never know which one it is.
Scorsese, he has talked about, Marvel and what's cinema and all that stuff. And he's clearly, even at around 80 years old or 82, however old he is now, he knows that you still have to sell a movie. And it seems like he maybe doesn't necessarily believe that he can put butts in seats the way maybe he used to, and The Rock can. So it's like, let me give you all the stuff you love that I do. I'm bringing you DiCaprio again for the 5th, 6th time we've been together. Emily Blunt, who doesn't love Emily Blunt? Hawaii, crime. I'm great at crime. And like, he's selling all that stuff, but he's like, and we're going to give you The Rock too.
I wonder if Scorsese was just like, I want to go to Hawaii. Can we do a film in Hawaii?
It could be. The Adam Sandler approach?
Yeah. I want to go on vacation with my friends, so I just pick a country where I want to go on vacation with my friends. And obviously, Hawaii's not a country, but I mean location.
Right.
He picked Morocco for his movie, but I just feel like it's like, well, this has to happen in Hawaii, and I have to live there for 2 years. Or
it is interesting because typically a lot of these Scorsese movies are just concrete jungle, and it's the rat race, and it's in busy cities. You think Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Departed. So I am actually intrigued at the idea that we're going tropical with Scorsese.
And you like Hawaii.
Love Hawaii. That was the one vacation I never wanted to leave. It was my honeymoon, and I'm just like, I don't want to go home. So yeah, I do think that's pretty cool. It's like, there have been great movies and even great comedies filmed in Hawaii, and Jurassic Park was filmed in Hawaii. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, a great comedy filmed in Hawaii, and like a Scorsese movie in Hawaii now. That's interesting to me. The only thing that I'm like the Sesame Street, which one of these don't belong, feels like The Rock, but I feel like that's not going to be a unique thought. I think a lot of people are saying that, but it's getting people talking, and depending on what kind of role he has, who better to reel him in than Martin Scorsese. So I am very interested in this movie. I want to hear more about it. But when you put all these elements together and then add Scorsese taking a crime to Hawaii, it really interests me.
It is funny that The Rock and Emily Blunt are together again after Jungle Cruise movie. They're coming back together, and like the odd man out seemingly is DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no real thoughts on it. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've ever seen a Scorsese movie. I've said that before. I'm not really into like the Italian Goodfellas, Godfather crime stuff. I like true crime, but I don't really like Italian mobster crime. I would wait for the trailer, I guess. If I saw a good trailer, maybe I'd tune
in. All right.
But The Rock is a little weird. It is a weird choice because just having The Rock next to Leonardo DiCaprio to me is just hilarious.
Yeah, even thinking about that poster, I'm like, that's just wild to picture in my head right now.
Yeah, he just seems like he'd be the gun guy if there's a gun guy.
Yeah. Did they say? They may have said, is he like the villain? I know he's going to be a lead. Yeah.
Oh, they're just. I don't think they've given many details. It's just, hey, this is happening. And similarly to our next story, it's like just kind of like, hey, it's happening.
But The Rock, like, he clearly has, he's Samoan. He has ties to Hawaii.
Yes,
he could be playing someone who is native to wherever they are, and then
good idea.
Crime people come in, and then he has to beat ass. I don't know what he's gonna do. But, yeah,
it's a good thought there because he is from there. It makes sense. Yeah. So going into our next story, which is funny because I always see that viral video going around of the guy that did the first Goonies. So our story is about the next Goonies, but he left the production and went to his home on Hawaii, and then Spielberg flew all the kids in and they surprised him, and the guy's like, oh no, I forget what his name was.
Was
and
it Chris Columbus?
No, it was like the director of I think it was the DP or something.
Oh.
And he had been with the kids so much that he finally like went on this long break to his house in Hawaii to get away from the kids. And Spielberg, as a joke, flew them all in and recorded his reaction of being like, so all the kids are yelling at him and they're like, hey man, blah. And you see his face look at the camera and he's like, what is happening? Because he like thought he was getting away.
Unless it was Richard Donner, the director.
That's who it was. Richard Donner.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah. So if you search for that, it will come up. It's like a viral video that goes around every once in a while. Anyway, the story is that Patsy Ponsiroli,
Mm-hmm.
that's quite a name, tapped to pen the Goonies sequel for Warner Brothers. Uh, Big news is that it's actually happening. You know, there's been rumors going around for many years. It's coming up on its 40th anniversary. The question is who's going to write it, who's involved, etc. A lot of us assumed, you and me included, John, that it's going to take place of the kids are getting involved into something.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that Spielberg is still involved to produce it. But yeah, so Potsy is the man behind Old Henry. And then he also, surprisingly, has a film coming out called The Rescue, which is a Western starring Brandon Sklenar. So that guy is making his rounds.
Yes.
They're looking to shoot that this summer, the Western film. But he also did a Western for Old Henry. So the question is, he's really into Westerns. Is the Goonies going to take place in some type of like Western situation, like old mine carts? You know what I mean? Because they go through the whole pirate thing. So it's like, is it like mine carts or old mines from the West, etc.?
Oh boy. I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters either, but it just like he's doing so much Western stuff that I'm like, why would you bring in someone that specializes like such a specific thing like that?
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's happening. John, are you hyped for the next Goonies movie? I liked the first one. It's definitely kind of like a staple to pop culture. But what are your thoughts?
I think this is a massive mistake. I don't think this.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So the new Ke Huy Quan movie is apparently not good.
Love Hurts. Yeah.
Yeah. It got panned. I don't even. Did it come out? I hate to even say. I
believe it came out around Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. So that was your rom-com. And now, like, he's gonna sign up for this, and then you think about where everyone else is at, and I know the guy who plays Chunk is an agent now. I don't know when the last time he acted was, and Corey Feldman is on Jupiter. So, and they're in their 50s.
I mean, you have Sean Astin.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin. I don't know. I'd be surprised if he came back for this. Did he say is he coming back for this?
They haven't announced yet.
Yeah, so they're in their 50s now, and it's like it's one of those things where, and I got thinking about this the other day when I was thinking about, Lucas maybe should have done the sequels first with Han, Luke, and Leia in like the 90s, and then did the prequels or something like that, and you start like dreaming about that. And I was thinking about the Goonies, like they definitely could have done it where they were like in college age and done a sequel in like the 90s, but now it just feels like we all know with the only formula they can go, which is they have kids and their kids get screwed up in an adventure, and then the old Goonies have to dig out their old stuff and save them. Like that's probably what this movie's going to be.
Which is what they did with Ghostbusters and Jurassic Park.
Exactly.
And
Yep, it's that blueprint, and it works in certain like that. That Ghostbusters Afterlife was pretty good, but like they have to know whatever they make is not going to live up to what they did in the mid 80s. So just acting chops and where these guys are at right now. Plus this guy has like no credits, if we're being honest. Like Chris Columbus wrote the Goonies. Richard Donner directed the Goonies. Steven Spielberg produced the Goonies. I have no idea who this guy is, and I don't even want to try to say his name. Patsy Ponsiroli.
Okay.
So, and I'm not hating on him or anything like that, but it's like nobody listening to this podcast right now has ever heard that name before. It's just, and I only say that because if Chris Columbus is still listed as he's going to be an executive producer, which I know is for sort of, he gets a payday, but also it's for cachet on the poster to say, oh, he's still affiliated. Same thing with George Lucas and Spielberg with The Last Indiana Jones. But that he didn't want to write it Not a good sign to me. He still wants to be involved, but he doesn't want to write it. He's still making movies. He's not like retired.
Yeah, he is.
He's completely retired?
No, he is making movies.
Oh, I was gonna say,
He's
yeah,
still in
yeah.
this.
He's still in the mix. And then this is the name, so that, and it's no offense to
We
this
just talked
person,
about him
but
recently. What is he doing now? What's his next big thing? It was
I
something
forget.
nostalgic.
Yeah, it was something. I don't remember. But
He was talking about, I know, Robin Williams at some point, but then he's also involved in something. Oh my God, it's going to drive me nuts. Keep talking. I'm going to look it up.
okay, yeah, because it's gonna drive me crazy too.
Mhm.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's no offense to this guy at all. Like, he's made money creating things, and this is his job, and he's clearly very good at it if he's even being considered for this. So I'm not trying to be that guy. But when you look at it from this perspective of it's this giant legacy franchise,
He's doing Gremlins. Sorry,
sequel.
didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, yeah. Is he's writing it?
So he's producing it.
Okay.
Writing, he is, hold on. They have it all weird now. It's like the things that are listed on IMDb is like very weird. He is writing Gremlins 3.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that makes me even more concerned about Goonies then. Because if he's like, yeah, I'll do a third Gremlins, but I'm not putting pen to paper for a Goonies sequel, he knows better. So, and I can't picture Corey Feldman right now, like acting like that. Like, he's so on his own planet with his own thing right now. And I think it'd be a mistake for Ke Huy Quan to go back, because it's like he escaped that shadow and he finally had this comeback and he wins this Oscar, and then he's gonna do Goonies 2 after this bad movie he just did. I don't want him to do that. I don't. So
it feels like a money grab to me, with a lot of this
nice
nostalgic stuff. It's just like, can't we just
Yeah.
leave stuff as it is? Can we just
It would
leave
be
things as the classic that we love?
as nice as it would be to see them all together. I would rather them do a full revisit of the original and like do a nice documentary or something versus trying to do a sequel. So I'm not trying to be a hater. I know people are going to be like upset I'm saying this. I think this is a big mistake and I don't think they should do it.
I agree. Speaking of big mistakes, our next story I think is a huge mistake. Big, huge, like Pretty Woman style. Big, huge mistake. James Bond shakeup at Amazon. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about Barbara Broccoli. Her last name's Broccoli, right? I'm not making that up. Who has been heading up James Bond for a very long time. Basically got into a huge fight with Amazon and publicly said that they're morons, and that they really only wanted to focus on spin-offs, and all their creative ideas kind of sucked, and they were fighting against what her creative ideas were. Well, this past week, they announced that they're now taking up creative control of the franchise, and the Broccoli family is stepping aside in the new deal. I guess everybody has a price tag, is what my first thought is.
Yeah.
So, James Bond, I feel, as a franchise, has been in recent years treated very poorly. I don't think they did a good job with the end of the last one with Daniel Craig. I think the most recent thing they did, which was like that reality show where they basically finagled Brian Cox into it. He thought he was the villain of the new James Bond film, and they lied to him and like got him into the reality show. Just shows me that they have no idea what to do with this character. And I'm going to drive it home even more so that Jeff Bezos put up on social media, who do you think should be the next James Bond? So the idea that they are taking public polls and deciding who the next James Bond is based on what fans say is just wild to me. Because as always, I will always defend creators and casting directors, producers, directors, etc., that they know best. Even if you don't agree with them, they know what's best for their story. And the moment that we start like crowdsourcing what the right choice is just not great for me. But I'm gonna see what you think, John. This was definitely one that hit home for me just because Matt is such a huge James Bond fan, and he went on a huge rant. He was like, it's gonna go one or two ways. He's like, either they're gonna get someone brand new in via Amazon who's gonna kill it, is really passionate about it, creative, etc., or they're going to do what they said they were going to do, which is just splinter it off into all these stupid spin-offs and basically run the IP into the ground. Now, you have hope for the one thing, that they're going to bring in someone that's going to do a good job and really make the franchise what it is, which is 2 to 4 years. They put out a new movie. It's this lasting, iconic character of James Bond. But from what I just said with Jeff Bezos putting out a tweet about it, it seems like they are going the opposite route. They are saying, how can we get people talking about this all the time? You know, someone put up a funny tweet that was like, are they going to have James Bond beating up Amazon warehouse workers and, you know, doing stupid stuff? But what are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I posted a joke to Blue Sky, so I'm going to read it for everybody.
Okay.
My thoughts before I do that are, yeah, I think it is going to be the latter. I think it would be foolish to think it wouldn't be. So what I posted to Blue Sky was James Bond 2027. James, what are we going to do? We're headed straight for that cliff. Don't worry. I always carry an extra pack of Amazon basic batteries for my jetpack. They left off. Wow, that was fast. You really do think of everything. What can I say? I'm in my prime.
You're so dumb. Oh my god. Oh my
12
god.
likes on Blue Sky, baby.
12 likes. Watch out.
That's heavy artillery on the Blue Sky. I think this is sad, but it's also sort of like Barbara Broccoli wasn't really on the creative side. She was more of just like making sure it was operating and they were overseeing it correctly. I think Michael was the one who was more involved with the production of the movies, and he's 83 now. So I think he was
I think
saying,
she also
like,
kept it at a level though of like a top tier IP.
absolutely. 100%. It's not, I'm not happy that this is happening, but Michael G. Wilson, her half brother, said he's not going to be producing any more movies. So it's sort of like they probably like looked around and were just like, well, they already own MGM. Like, there's really no other move here. But you have to wonder, sort of like we wonder about George Lucas, are there certain stipulations in the contract that say you cannot, you must, you know, those types of things that they have to adhere to until these people pass on and Amazon says, we don't care, we're going to do whatever we want anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I do think they are going to IP the hell out of this. They're probably looking at something that shouldn't even be in the same realm as James Bond, like John Wick, and that's already getting spin-offs. So
that's exactly what I said today.
Yeah.
With the ballerina thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to get a lot. We're going to get a new James Bond, probably like you were saying, like a main movie theater thing. I hope they still bring James Bond to the theaters. If Amazon goes straight to Prime with Bond, that's a bummer, because I haven't been to the last couple, but I used to always make it a point to try to go check out the new James Bond in theaters. So that would be a bummer.
Yeah, the weird thing about Prime, actually, Amazon, since they bought MGM, but in general, is their movie tastes seemingly have been these types of spy movies. So you have like the Jack Reacher, John Ryan, Tom
Mr.
Clancy
and Mrs. Smith.
stuff, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It seems like they're really leaning into that spy stuff. So hopefully that's a little bit more of a plus side for the creative, is that they have had award-winning spy genre, espionage, big budget action stuff. In the same vein as this, I would say most of that stuff is inspired by James Bond. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just sad, you know, it's changing of the guard, it's changing hands. And I saw another funny joke that was like, great, now that's owned by Amazon officially, or a creative control, they're going to put Chris Pratt as James Bond because he's in everything that Amazon does. Which I don't think they would do that, to be honest.
No.
But I do think they're going to milk the IP, because this is, at the end of the day, just like with Disney and everybody else, is about making money. So what can I make money? You're going to see more merchandise. You're going to see more people playing characters, series, TV show,
They could reboot James Bond 2 and say like, all right, like because they all keep an eye on what the other ones are doing, and I think HBO is still the best at the original content television. And they look at like the Penguin, and it's like, all right, well, they had this version of Batman, and it did pretty well. It made probably similar to what one of the more recent James Bond made. So why don't we reboot James Bond? We'll get our new James Bond. We'll put him in theaters, and then we'll make a spin-off for the villain on Amazon Prime. It'll be this series about, Odd Job or, Dr. No or whoever.
I was thinking
that
like
guy up.
Q's Workshop.
Yeah, and then put them into the next movie. So it could work. It's just you got to get the right type of people. Like the woman who was the showrunner and creator for the Penguin, like crushed it. Like you get the right people. So I don't know enough about who's, I don't pay attention to Amazon content that much. And sometimes if something's out, I'm not sure if it was from Amazon or not. So I got to take a closer look. It still could be a good thing, but they are going to spin off and do all that stuff like that, follow that blueprint like Batman did.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't go the route of this next story, which is the Hawks, Ethan Hawke and his daughter Maya Hawke from Stranger Things, have been making news with some behind the scenes information that they're sharing with interviews. Specifically, it started with Maya Hawke on Happy, Sad, Confused. He kills it every time. Every time he gets these answers from people, he's very good at what he does. Josh Horowitz.
Very conversational.
Yes, he very friendly. Yep. She revealed on his podcast that she knows several, quote, smart directors who have been told by producers that they must cast actors with a certain amount of Instagram followers. I saw this video. It is infuriating to watch. She's very uncomfortable talking about it. She's like, in order for a project to move forward, she said, quote, I don't care about Instagram. Instagram sucks. Right. Well, just so you know, if you have one of the have over this many followers, you can get a movie funded. It's a really confusing line to walk. When asked about it, Ethan at the Berlin Film Festival said that it's actually crazy. And he said, I feel for these people. It's really hard, he said. Sometimes I'll be setting a movie up and someone will say, oh, you should cast Susie. I love that he used and I'm like, who is she? She has 10 million followers. And I'm like, okay, cool. She has acted before? No, but, and you're like, wow. So this is going to help me make this movie, get this movie made? This is crazy. He then continued to say, so if I don't have this public facing platform, I don't have a career. And if I get more followers, I might get that part. What? He then goes on to talk a little bit about how the industry in general is. He's like, you don't see Robert De Niro with a six-pack in these movies. No, he gets chosen because he's good at what he does, because of his craft, because he's a good actor. And he says that he really feels for young actors nowadays because if you don't have that social following, if you don't have that pull with marketing and studios of, hey, 10 million followers, this many people paying attention, then you're going to get skipped over, even if you're talented, just because in this example, Susie does. I know personally, I was infuriated watching these clips and reading this interview because as someone that works in marketing and works in social media, I will always say that the person that deserves any type of role or opportunity are the ones that work the hardest, not the ones that have a huge social following. And that's not to say that people on social media don't work hard, because I think there are a lot of content creators that hustle nonstop to have the audience they have, to do it for a living, etc. I'm saying that just because you have a huge following because you make pancakes doesn't mean that you're the next Oscar-winning actress that should be overlooked, by someone who's gone to Juilliard or like put in their time or experience, etc. We've talked a lot about Rachel Zegler, who was found on social media, who went viral with her singing video in high school. And then she got all these roles from Hollywood because she has all these followers and stuff. John, what was your reaction to this? How do you feel about it?
So you wouldn't want them to like remake Pretty Woman? You brought up Pretty Woman before with like Haktua girl as Vivian. That's what you're saying?
Please don't. She stole a bunch of people's money. She rug pulled them and is now just being like, hey guys, I'm really sorry about that. Like, she should be in jail. So let's not use her as an example.
But she's a great example of a horrible thing that's happening.
Yes.
So it's
100%.
an excellent example.
Sure. I don't even want to give her the time of day, is basically what I'm saying.
No, I didn't say a real name. All right. I mean, I love Ethan Hawke. He's such a great actor, and he's also like seems pretty down to earth. And I liked what Maya said too. And I like that he's saying she's seeing that in her own experience as well. You know, but it is kind of shitty, and we're gonna talk about a trailer later where like here's former NFL great Marshawn Lynch just eating up these roles in these movies. It's like,
He totally is, yeah.
and it's like becoming a thing. And we talked about like a little earlier, not the same, but The Rock in a Scorsese movie, and it's like The Rock has a lot of followers. Leo's not really tweeting much. Are we trying to get the young kids in to see the Scorsese movie? Sounds like it. So it's all over, and I don't think it's nice hearing this from people in the industry, because I think there's probably a lot of fear of speaking out against all this stuff with these
There also
studios.
is a bit we have to acknowledge that Maya is a nepo baby and has probably been given opportunities because her dad is Ethan Hawke.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it's good for her to speak out too, using her privilege and super highway to stardom via Stranger Things, which she was great in. So
she was great.
Yeah. So I don't know really much else to say about it. We sort of knew this stuff was happening because you could see these random people just popping up and things, and you're like, why?
Or
Like,
Addison
why?
Rae getting a 3-movie deal with Netflix, and you're like, why?
Yeah,
Does
right.
this girl
So
keep doing movies?
I guess my final thought on it is just good to see a very respected actor, and also his daughter being an up and coming, a young voice, and an esteemed actor, both speaking out on this stuff, because I think a lot of people ignore it. And when you hear someone actually say it, then you're like, wow, okay. So it's not just, conspiracy theories or anything like that. Like these actors are like, no, this is happening. So it's a bummer.
And it's been happening for a while, I think.
And stuff like this needs to get called out the same way we were saying stuff like AI posters need to get called out. You just gotta use your voices when things ain't right, and don't be afraid to do it.
Well, speaking of calling things out, the IMAX CEO has called out the Netflix Narnia release deal as, quote, fairly complex, and that it is not in a rush to do another one, which is interesting. So for those of you that don't know, Greta Gerwig, Barbie fame, other movies as well, but most recently Barbie fame, director of Barbie, writer of Barbie, is doing the Narnia series for Netflix. Now, usually Netflix will launch all their movies and series on their streaming service, which is understandable, and might do a limited theater run eventually, and or
Like
consecutively.
Knives Out did that, right?
Right, or consecutively with the release on the platform. Well, Greta worked with Netflix and basically said, if you want me to come there and do this movie, you want the billion-dollar franchise that I gave for Barbie, you're going to release this exclusively to IMAX for 2 consecutive weeks before it even touches Netflix. This is like one of, if not the first time they've ever done this, that they've said, okay, we won't put it on Netflix until it's been in the theaters for a couple weeks. It's wild. But the IMAX CEO told Wall Street this past week that, quote, I've talked to Netflix about this, and I think in general they are excited we're going to do it, but we are not in a rush to do another one. I think the factors have come to put into place that work for everybody, but the deal took a pretty long time to put together. Obviously, there are a lot of different constituencies with different agendas that go in there. So basically he's saying like they constructed their own deal and that it probably is never going to happen again because it seemed like a big pain in the butt is the gist I'm getting. But it seems like Greta kind of pushed her way through to this deal to get it into theaters. And look, I don't blame her. You're doing Narnia and you're not going to put it in a movie theater. Like what are we doing? What's going on? Right. It's such like a classic tale that like everybody loves. So, she knows that there's money to be made in the movies. She wants to support the movie theater industry. But yeah, it's funny coming from the IMAX guy that this seems kind of like a negative storyline because she's only helping this guy and his business.
Right.
But he's kind of like, oh, don't ever expect this again. And it's like, okay, guy, maybe you should be a little more grateful that she's pushing to have her movie in your movie theaters.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Narnia? Do you like this? And are you surprised that this is a deal that will never happen again?
I definitely read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I remember liking that very much as a kid.
4th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read like all the books, so I don't know the whole lore and all that stuff. I did check out, I think the first movie they did, like, was it 20 years ago or something like that? But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. But she has all the capital in the world off of the Barbie success, of course, and it's an 8-movie run that they're going to go on here. I think Netflix might also have pushed for this though too, because they want to keep getting their name in the award season discussions.
And they can't do it without theaters, which is what the
Yeah.
Oscars have made it a rule. It
Right.
has to be in the movie theater. Yeah.
So Netflix is probably down with this, actually. I think it's IMAX who doesn't know that it's worth all the effort. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, the guy sounds like he's like exhausted. That's what he sounds like. This guy just sounds tired. Like, he just like you say, like, all right, we got the second one coming up, and his only response is, just that sound that we all do when we're just completely done. So yeah, I don't know. I agree with you though. A movie that we imagine to be a very visual adventure should be seen on a big screen.
Do you want to get into what we're watching?
Was that the last story?
That was the last story.
All right, let's see what we're watching.
We can never leave the house and would just probably sit around all weekend and watch TV.
Go on.
All right, before we get into what you're watching, we skipped trailers this week, but quick thoughts. Accountant 2, gonna see it because I like The Accountant, and now they just added John Bernthal as Ben Affleck's brother. Boom. Amazing. Give it the Oscars. Give him the Oscars. Let's do it all. All right. Lacey,
I didn't see the first one. What is he doing with his face?
He has a disability. I'll just say that.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying because I watched the trailer and I was like, it doesn't look like Ben Affleck. He's doing something.
I mean, he may have also done a little post J-Lo work. We don't know.
Maybe. Okay.
You
go first.
Yeah, all right. So what we're watching, I watched my favorite movie as a child, The Love Bug, with my son for the first time.
Did he like it?
He did. He really did. And he had to leave at one point because he got sad. And he was embarrassed to cry.
Oh, why'd you?
Yeah.
You should tell him it's okay to cry in front of you.
I do.
Oh, he just didn't want to.
Yeah, he goes, I have to go fill up my water. And then he went and hid behind the couch and cried a little bit. So I was like,
is there a water cooler behind your couch?
No, we also have a kitchen in our house that has a refrigerator, and then you could fill up water. And then
But you made it sound like he filled up his water and hid behind the couch. So I'm saying
he used that as an excuse to get up and leave.
I thought you said he went up, filled up his water, and then hid behind the couch.
No, he said, I have to go fill up my water, and then he got up and left.
Oh, okay.
It was a really sad part in the movie. It's when Herbie tries to commit suicide, so it's tough.
Really? Yeah. Really loving of the bug.
Yeah, but then it has a very happy ending. It's a very nice, happy, wonderful Disney movie. And he really enjoyed it. And I got emotional because I was watching him watch the movie that I watched when I was little, and it's always a surreal experience.
That's how I'm going to feel at our Patreon live stream about Labyrinth. Just really.
Labyrinth tomorrow night. But yeah, so I watched that. I think I watched some other old movies too. I think I watched Old School again. I haven't been watching a lot of new stuff, but I am, as of recording this now, more episodes are out. We have both watched the first 6 or whatever episodes, the first batch of
4.
Love is Blind. And let me say that this is riveting television.
Are you lying?
I am not lying.
Oh. Okay.
What, you don't like? You haven't liked it?
This season is so boring.
Is
so boring.
How can you?
It is so
say that?
slow. And I know what happened. So this is the 8th season. I know what happened. You had the perfect love story of Lauren and Cameron in the first season. Like first 12 minutes, they were together in love, black woman, white man. It was a beautiful, they found each other despite all odds story. You had Messica season 1. So you're just like chasing that for they're trying to find the Messica, they're trying to find the love story.
I don't remember that.
Okay, that was season 1. They've been chasing it ever since. So last season was just kind of all over the place, and there were a lot of kind of sketchy people in the season.
I remember trying to watch last season and not continuing after like 2 episodes.
Well, the problem is that as the shows got more popular, what comes with it is money and influence. So a lot of these people go on the show, don't end up married, leave, start a podcast, like into the pods or whatever, become an influencer and make bank. So a lot of people go on the show just to get popular. They don't go on to find marriage, where the first few seasons, people genuinely were going on there to find marriage. Over the seasons, they've had some seasons that are really rushed, and then they get right into the relationships of them on the honeymoons, and they're together, and there's all this drama. And then there is this season, because they got the feedback from fans being like, I have no like connection to these characters because you didn't give me any time to see the development of them in the pods. Because the characters, the people that went through the process, or the experiment as they call it, would always say, well, you didn't see all the stuff that happened in the pods, so you don't understand. Like, we talked about so much in the pods that nobody knows. So they went really hard this time into like, we're going to show you really long conversations in the pods so that you get to know these people better. And there are moments that are just very long and boring, like very long, but you do get a better understanding and inkling of who's who and why they connect with who they connect with. But there were a lot of questions. Like, I wasn't sure why Madison and Alex didn't work out. Like, it was very confusing to me. There's also a clear lack of diversity this season. It's like all white people. It's like, what happened? But I understand that sometimes the seasons, they'll go with like whatever the first 6 couples are. And even if some people do end up getting engaged and going through the whole thing of getting married, they don't select those couples. I think it's getting started, is basically what I'm saying. I'm saying the first few episodes, I was not that intrigued. I'm waiting for the next few. I need more mess. There wasn't enough mess for me.
I don't know. I mean, I'm glad you just said everything you just said, but I just thought the end of that first batch of episodes was absolutely insane. Insane. Like, I was like, holy cow, this is the plot of the Netflix show You, basically.
I think she made that up, though.
I don't think she made that up.
She made that whole thing up. I think she wanted out as soon as she saw how short he was, and she wasn't interested in whatsoever.
How
She
can you
kept
make
giving
that up.
So like, people pick. I don't want to say she made it up because I haven't seen the rest of the conversation. I've only seen the first half, but it just feels like she was looking for an out. So it seems like she's trying to come up with this idea of like, oh, I think you followed me, because the guy was like, I didn't follow you. So I have to take it as that until there's proof that it happened.
No, he did follow her, and then he unfollowed her.
He said he didn't.
He said, I'm not following you. And she's like, yeah, you unfollowed me. And then he didn't say anything. And
yeah, but you don't know if that's through editing, though.
But I know, but also like, well, let's put it this way.
Okay.
We find out what happens. If it ends up he did do that,
then it is creepy, yes.
He looked through her photos to say like, oh, she likes gingerbread cookies. I'm going to bring this up. She likes Taco Bell. I'm going to bring this up. That's total manipulation. That is complete
100%.
madness that we watched unfold live. Like that.
Yeah, and he just had to go through each girl being like, are you Lauren? Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Lauren,
so if that happened, which I hope it did for the sake of the entertainment, we are in for a wild ride. And that's why I'm saying it's riveting, because we watched like actual manipulation that we all know exists happen right in front of our eyes. And
yeah,
what a twist ending that was. Like, that was crazy to me. So
I do think she wanted out, though. From the moment she saw him, she was like, no.
Oh,
and she kept giving the excuses that they give every season, which is like, I'm just in so much shock. Like, that's what they always say. I'm just so shocked right now.
Yeah, there was another girl who I could tell she was not interested also because she kept just saying like, I was so glad for this experience and like talking about it in the past tense. And he's talking about like their future. And she's like, this has been just such a great experience. Like,
Oh god.
oh, you're cooked, dude. But anyway,
Please.
now I'm never going to watch it again. So that's it.
Okay.
You sapped my joy for.
No, I'm saying it gets good now. When they
This
go to the
escape.
honeymoon is when it gets good. This show
But you
sucks
know
until it gets to the honeymoon.
Yeah, but you need this part and you need those long conversations to get to know these people. I didn't like the quick cuts and I was like, I don't know who this is. Whatever.
I'm not arguing that. I just think they went a little too long this season. They got to find the happy medium. They went a little too long.
What else are you watching?
So I'm very proud, guys. I've watched a ton of stuff the past 2 weeks. I'm like I've like pushed myself to watch things each night to come and talk about it. So since we were just talking about you, I'll go into this one. I watched the American Murder Gabby Petito docuseries on Netflix. For those of you that don't know, Gabby Petito was a young girl that went on a van life YouTuber influencer trip with her boyfriend Brian Laundrie back in 2021, and
don't spoil because I may want to watch it. You know what I mean?
Do you know what happens to her?
No.
You've never heard of this story? It was like national news for about 40 days straight.
Never heard of her name before.
We have definitely talked about this before. Because when it was happening, I would come on record nights being like, have you heard the latest of blank?
Are you talking about a different person maybe?
Gabby Petito went on a trip with her boyfriend and didn't come back.
I did not ring a bell. Sorry.
Okay. I won't go into the details then, but she went on a trip, didn't come back. Obviously, it's American murder. She got murdered. That's not anything that you won't know in the first 2 seconds of watching it.
Right.
But they get into the nitty gritty with like FBI agents, details that weren't given to the public at the time about what happened. And it is just such a horrific situation. And I'm sure you feel this way, John. When I would watch these things years ago without having kids, you'd feel sad. But the level of sad you feel when you become a parent and you see her parents on camera hysterical, it is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking stuff. So if it's tough for you to watch stuff like that, don't watch it. But it is very interesting to hear how they break everything down in choices that they made that they were very much, I'm saying the FBI were very much criticized during this investigation for several different reasons that they get into, but they do a really good job explaining why they did what they did. It's just wild. It's so nuts. It's 3 episodes. Just really, really sad stuff. All right. I'll go into this before my last thing. I did watch the first episode of Severance. We had talked about this on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're interested in Severance, it's an Apple TV show, but I found it on Amazon Prime. So I watched it on there before getting into Apple because I was like, well, if I'm going to subscribe to Apple, let me see if this is any good. It is very good. Directed by Ben Stiller. It's very slow to start. You got to stick with it.
I got to rewatch it. Yeah.
There are a lot of details. But man, as someone that is a Star Wars fan that is often looking for Easter eggs and connections and stuff, like that is the show for that. Because from the moment they show up, they're showing you things and you just, as someone that has a filmmaking brain, I'm going, okay, they're showing me this thing because of this reason. Remember this. Like, why are they showing me this person?
Like
why
Lost.
are they showing me? Yes. So if you don't want to pay attention really hard at something, don't watch Severance. But just the details of what the characters are going through. And then they have tie-ins to like America where there's like congressional hearings about it. Obviously this isn't real. This is fictional. But yeah, we talked about their marketing in Grand Central Station where they have the office there. And it makes me sad that I missed it when it happened because I finally just watched the show. It's also been the most successful show on Apple TV ever. So we'll see as I get into it. But I watched it with Matt on my birthday, actually. And I loved it. I thought it was really good. I can't wait to see where it goes. But man, you got to be focused because if
Yeah,
you're not focused, you're gonna miss things.
I'm gonna continue watching it too.
Yeah. All right. And the last thing that I watched this past week was Idea Man, which is a documentary about Jim Henson from Ron Howard. It's on Disney Plus, and it was truly magical. Like I can't express enough how good it is that I'm surprised it's gone by kind of so quietly. Like I feel like not a lot of people have been talking about it. Disney came out with it last year at some point, and I had put it on my list to watch, and it just didn't happen. And I know Ron Howard, I think, won an Emmy for it. Like it did very well critically, but it just seems like no one's talking about this film, and it's just so good. And they interview a lot of people from the family to people that were involved with the Muppets early on. Frank Oz is a huge person throughout the whole documentary, and he's a thread that's like through the whole life of Jim. And while it does highlight a lot of different things about Jim Henson and his work ethic and the amazing things that he did, the thing I appreciated about the way Ron Howard told the story was he didn't try to paint him as a perfect person, which I appreciate. I think oftentimes these documentaries take these iconic figures in pop culture and just in history and try to make it like they've never made mistakes. They've never done anything wrong. They're so wonderful, pedestal person. And this documentary doesn't do that. They say while he did all these amazing things and how creative he was and how he changed the game for puppetry and filmmaking, etc., he made mistakes when it came to his family, when it came to business, and heartbreakingly enough, we're talking about Labyrinth, or we're watching Labyrinth tomorrow on Patreon. There's a whole section about Labyrinth, specifically that it was a project that he loved so dearly that everyone hated. And this segment is, for me, as someone that's always loved it from the moment I watched it, and used to pretend I was Sarah, and like that movie is such an ingrained experience for me to hear clips of him talking about it and to see people's reaction to it and being like, oh yeah, everybody hated this movie. I'm like, who hated it? How could you hate this movie? This movie's so good. And like Dark Crystal and how people didn't react to Dark Crystal well. And it just very much reminded me of George Lucas, of how he went through the same thing. Like when he made something that he truly wanted to make, everybody hated him for it, even though it was his vision, his idea, his, who he was basically.
Right.
The prequels are George through and through. They're exactly what he wanted to do. But yeah, I mean, that's the risk you take when you do creative stuff. But of course, I sobbed through the movie. So if you love Jim Henson and you love the impact that he's had on your life, on others' lives, and just to hear the people closest to him talk about him and how he was gone too soon because he did pass when he was 53. It gave me a feeling of, I hope in my life that when I look back on it, people feel this way about me. Like someone described him as the light in the room went off and then it never came back on. Like Frank Oz described him as his best friend, of the person that he cares about the most. And like all, like you just look at that and you're like, I want to be a good person like Jim Henson is, so that when I leave this world, when that time happens, I'm looked back on like that. That's the dream, is like that people love me and care about me. And but at the same time, I go back to what I said before, he wasn't perfect and he did make mistakes, but I think it was nice to see that people accepted him for those mistakes, but also understood that sometimes our flaws make us the people that we are. I can't say enough about it. It's amazing. It's so good. Go watch it.
Yeah, a clear winner. I mean, Ron Howard's the best.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good at what he does.
He's worked with a lot of these people. He knows what they're all about. So what a great person to pick to tell that story. So yeah, highly recommend, of course. And that's it. That is the show. So thank you so much to everybody for getting nerdy with us today. We had fun. We hope you did too. Make sure, like we said before, all the plugs, of course, follow us, Nerdy Nice Pod, on social media, and subscribe to the show. Rate us, subscribe to the channel. Go to trbpodcast.com also if you want to pick up a Nerdy Nice shirt. We got merch over there, and you can also access the podcast there as well. But for me, Johnny Hoey on Blue Skies, where to hit me up to talk about all this stuff. And then TRB on Thursday. Tomorrow night on Patreon, I'm watching Labyrinth for the first time with Lacey, with you. So join us
Jim's
there.
Dream Project.
Yes. So, and it'll be like seeing David Bowie back to life because I haven't seen Labyrinth yet. So that'd be cool. But yeah, that's me. Just like the movies also. And hope everyone's well. See you guys tomorrow on Patreon. The rest of you Star Wars fans Thursday. And
you can find me at
Lacey.
Lacey Gilleran.
Yeah, I was just going there. Lacey, what about you?
You can find me at Lacey Gilleran. Where are the drugs?
Well, what about TikTok?
Oh, it's Lacey Gilleran. I haven't really posted on there, and I feel bad because, you know, life. I'm trying my best, but yeah, I try my best to post when I can. But I have seen people be like, "You should post more often." I'm like, I would if I had time.
That was me saying that.
Was it you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am going to start posting more going into Celebration. Obviously, we're gonna do tips and tricks and stuff like we always do. So stay tuned for that. But I think I'm gonna try more often to give initial reactions to things when I watch them, because man, I was sobbing after I DM it. I was like, "This is like one of the best movies I've ever seen."
Are you gonna do like a sobbing review?
I don't know. Maybe I'll tag Ron Howard.
That's
Ron
really
Howard.
putting yourself out there.
Just ugly crying.
Yeah, I did that once. And my brother was like, "Dude, delete that. Don't do that."
I love that your brother always really knocks you down a peg or two.
It was after watching Clerks 3, and it was like so sad because I like felt my own mortality because I grew up watching those movies.
Yeah.
And I just posted like what my eyes looked like after watching because Kevin Smith has done that before, and I thought he would appreciate it. My brother's like, "Dude, that's so stupid. Delete that." I didn't delete it. Screw him.
I love it. I love
right.
that he's like, "Stop being so stupid."
Yeah, he's like, but then he's always on. He's on like social media plenty. He just acts like he's not. Anyway,
It just reminds me of every time I say something stupid on the podcast, and then my sister will text me like 2 days later, being like, "I heard you said this. You're an idiot." I'll be like, "Okay, thanks so
which
much."
sister? The one with the good handshake?
Chelsea, yeah. Kelly's not listening to my podcast. Kelly's busy. Got stuff to do.
Chelsea's not busy, I guess. All right.
No, Chelsea's not listening. Her husband listens and then tells her.
Oh, well, leave me out of it. I think you're all great. All right. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next time here on Nerdy and Nice. You're on, kids.